Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for this Orientation and Grant Management webinar for new Second Chance Act grantees. My name is Leah King, and I am the Deputy Director of the Reentry Program at the Council of State Governments Justice Center. Before we begin today's webinar, a couple of technical notes. Today's webinar focuses specifically on grant management requirements for those grantees who received awards from the Bureau of Justice Assistance. If you received your award from the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, you are welcome to listen to today's webinar, but keep in mind your requirements are slightly different. If you received an award from OJJDP this year, please email us after today's webinar, and we'll make sure to send you the link to the relevant materials for your grant program. If you encounter technical or audio problems during the webinar, WebEx technical support is available at 866-229-3239. Unfortunately, there are some technical issues that we may not be able to resolve in time for you to participate in today's webinar. For this reason, we are recording today's event and will be posting the recording on our website as soon as possible. We will notify you by email when the recording is available. At the end of today's webinar, we will have time for questions and answers. In order to ask a question at any point during the webinar, please type your question into the Q&A panel that appears in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar, and we will do our best to answer as many as possible at the end. Today's webinar features speakers from 3 organizations that work together closely to support and oversee the Second Chance Act grant programs. Most importantly, staff from the Bureau of Justice Assistance will provide crucial information about the federal grant management and reporting requirements that all grantees must meet. You will also hear from CSR Incorporated, which administers BJA's Performance Measurement Tool, or PMT. As a grantee, you will be required to submit data through the PMT on a quarterly basis. You will also hear from the National Reentry Resource Center about training and technical assistance resources that are available to all Second Chance Act grantees throughout the life of your grant. We will start today by hearing from Dr. Gary Dennis, Senior Policy Advisor at the Bureau of Justice Assistance. Dr. Dennis joined the BJA Policy Office after many years with the Kentucky Department of Corrections, and he has very ably overseen the implementation of the Second Chance Act since 2008. Dr. Dennis?
Thanks very much, Leah. It's really a privilege to have the opportunity to congratulate each of you on successfully applying and getting one of our Second Chance Grant Awards, and also to welcome you to what I think is a pretty elite group. You're the 5th cohort of Second Chance grantees. As most of you probably know, the Second Chance Act was funded for the first time in federal fiscal year 09. I had the privilege of writing the first 2 solicitations for reentry demonstration grants and mentoring grants. And then as we moved on to FY10, when we got a $100 million appropriation, and significantly expanded the programming. So some of you all probably have had some of the Second Chance grant money before. Some of you are new to our family. My colleagues in our program office, as well as Rachel Burchett with the CSR, will really give you the details that you'll need. But I just wanted to say a word of welcome and let you know that I'm available to you at any time. You'll have my contact information, email, as well as my direct line phone number. Many of you I've talked with already, but look forward to establishing a relationship. So once again, welcome to the Second Chance Grant family, and congratulations on your award. Leah, I'll turn it back to you now.
Okay, thanks, Gary. I'll now introduce Dr. Beth Skinner, the Director of the Reentry Program at the Council of State Governments Justice Center, which is home to the National Reentry Resource Center. Dr. Skinner joined CSG last year after many years working in community corrections with the 6th Judicial District in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Dr. Skinner will share just a little bit of information about CSG and the role of the NRRC in supporting SCA grantees. Dr. Skinner? Did we lose Beth somewhere in the last 5 or 10 minutes? Sorry about that. It wouldn't be a webinar if we weren't having technical difficulties. I've now got Dr. Beth Skinner.
Sorry about that, everyone. For some reason, my phone is not working properly, so apologize about that. But again, like Leah said, it wouldn't be a webinar without some sort of technical difficulties. With that said, I'd like to spend just a couple of minutes introducing you to the CSG Justice Center and the resources available to grantees through the National Reentry Resource Center. The Justice Center is part of the Council of State Governments, which is the nation's only organization serving all three branches of state government, executive, legislative, and judicial. Since 1933, CSG has helped foster the exchange of insights and ideas to help state officials shape public policy. On behalf of Council of State Governments, the CSG Justice Center works with policymakers at the local, state, and federal levels to improve criminal and juvenile justice systems. The CSG Justice Center provides practical, nonpartisan advice and consensus-driven strategies informed by available evidence to increase public safety and to strengthen communities. You may have heard of other Justice Center projects. Our Criminal Justice Mental Health Consensus Project helps local, state, and federal policymakers and criminal justice and mental health professionals improve the response of people with mental illnesses who come into contact with the criminal justice system. Since publishing the landmark Consensus Project report in 2002, the Justice Center staff has supported the implementation of practical, flexible criminal justice mental health strategies. The Justice Center also provides technical assistance to grantees under BJA's Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program. Next, our Justice Reinvestment Program provides intensive technical assistance to select states develop data-driven policy to reduce correction spending and reinvest savings into strategies that can decrease crime and strengthen neighborhoods. Finally, the Justice Center established the Reentry Policy Council in 2001 to assist state government officials grappling with increasing number of people leaving prisons and jails to return to the communities they left behind. In 2005, we published a report of the Reentry Policy Council, which provides bipartisan recommendations that policymakers can use to improve the likelihood that adults released from prison or jail will avoid crime and become productive, healthy members of families and communities. The report of the Reentry Policy Council and the research base it drew upon provide the basis for the Second Chance Act. The Second Chance Act was signed into law in 2008, the first federal legislation to authorize federal funding for reentry programs. Recognizing how complex reentry initiatives are and the importance of integrating research and evidence into those initiatives, the Second Chance Act authorized the creation of a National Resource Center for Adult and Juvenile Reentry. In 2009, following this competitive process, the CSG Justice Center was selected to launch the National Reentry Resource Center and provide training and technical assistance to all other Second Chance Act grantees. We administer the NRC in close partnership with BJA. On behalf of the staff and board of the CSG Justice Center, I congratulate you on your selection as the Second Chance Act grantee. The Second Chance Act grant programs are highly competitive and sought after, and policymakers at the federal, state, and local level are looking to Second Chance Act grantees to advance the understanding of effective reentry and recidivism reduction practices. We are wholeheartedly committed to providing support that will help you make the most of your grants, and we look forward to working with each of you as you implement your projects. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Skinner. I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes before we get to the real important information in today's webinar, just introducing everyone to some resources that we have available to everyone through our website, the National Reentry Resource Center website. The National Reentry Resource Center has four main objectives, and three of them, as you can see, are really focused on identifying best practices, communicating with the field, and advancing the reentry field through training, distance learning, and knowledge development. But the fourth bullet is really one that we very much take to heart here at the National Reentry Resource Center. Delivering individualized, targeted technical assistance to Second Chance Act grantees is the heart of what we do here at the NRRC. Every grantee has been assigned to an NRRC staff member who will reach out to you soon to learn more about your project and how we can be helpful to you over the course of the rest of your grant. In the meantime, however, there is a wealth of information available on our website that might be helpful to you as you launch your projects. I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes walking you through those sections of the website that you might find particularly helpful as you're getting up and running. We have issue area pages dedicated to many of the key topics of interest to policymakers and practitioners. Each issue area page provides links to recent research and publications, as well as news clips about that subject. Health is just one of the many issue areas that you'll be able to find covered on our website. We also regularly conduct webinars like this one, and we host webinars on a wide variety of topics. All of our webinars are recorded, archived, and available on our website. We also have a number of other videos and webinars hosted by other organizations. We're building a pretty massive online library of video resources that are available to you. We are also building a pretty massive online library of publications related to reentry. To date, there are nearly 1,300 items in our library. You can access any of those materials through the search box on our site, and that includes materials that we put out as well as anything else that exists in public domain on the topic of reentry. We are also home to the What Works in Reentry Clearinghouse, which offers easy access to important research on the effectiveness of a wide variety of reentry programs and practices. It provides a user-friendly one-stop shop for practitioners and service providers seeking guidance on evidence-based reentry interventions, as well as a useful resource for researchers and others interested in reentry. The main difference between the What Works in Reentry Clearinghouse and our general online library, you'll find materials in the What Works in Reentry Clearinghouse that aren't necessarily in public domain, so we really draw upon the research base and many of the journal articles that have come out about reentry programs. You'll be able to find those information about those articles in the What Works in Reentry Clearinghouse. The Clearinghouse also delves in much greater detail into different services and interventions. All of the services that you see lit up in blue here on the screen are currently available on our site, but we have many others that will be coming online soon. And in addition to presenting the research in those areas, we also synthesize the research to give you key takeaways in each of those key areas. We are constantly in the process of adding new resources, webinars, funding opportunities, and other news to our website, and we send out a monthly newsletter that will connect you to all of those resources. We encourage each of you to sign up for our newsletter, which you can do on our website, and your internet browser will redirect you to our newsletter sign-up page as soon as the webinar ends, so please take the opportunity to sign up if you haven't yet. I'll give you just a little bit of information about the technical assistance timeline. Our technical assistance is individualized to the particular needs of grantees and different grant categories, which work on different timelines. But generally speaking, your technical assistance provider will reach out to you no later than early January in order to learn more about your project. Each of you should have received an email at the end of last week that included the contact information for your technical assistance provider here at the National Reentry Resource Center. That TA provider will reach out to you shortly if they haven't yet in order to set up an introductory phone call with you, but you are welcome to reach out to them at any time if you have any questions. If you didn't receive an email late last week, or if you aren't sure who your TA provider is, just send me an email at lkame@csg.org, and I'll put that up in the chat box in just a minute. In January, you'll hear from us once again. We are going to be distributing a planning and implementation guide. This is a document that we developed for demonstration grantees a couple of years ago. It went through a couple of years of funding with grantees, and we found that the grantees reported that they found it to be a very useful self-assessment tool to identify the challenges and opportunities that they're facing within their grants. Our staff also found it to be incredibly helpful for identifying specific needs that we could support throughout the course of the grant. The PNI guide is only a mandatory deliverable for demonstration grantees this year, but we'll be introducing the guide to all grantees this year in hopes that you'll find it to be a useful tool. You'll hear much more from us about the planning and implementation guide in January. Throughout February, March, and April, we hope that you'll be working with your TA provider to complete the PNI guide and also get your programs up and running. We are very hopeful that we will be able to have a Second Chance Act conference next spring. Both we and BJ are very hopeful that we'll be able to host the conference, but the conference must be approved ultimately by the Department of Justice, and it will likely be several months before we know for sure if we'll be able to have the conference. In the meantime, we'd like to ask you to hold the week of May 12 to 16 for the conference, and if the conference is approved, it will take place in the Washington, D.C. area. But please do not book any travel or make any travel arrangements until you receive word that the conference has been confirmed. Your grants will not reimburse travel expenses or cancellation fees if the conference is not approved. We will reach out to all grantees as soon as we can share more information about the conference, but we very much hope that we'll be able to see you in Washington next May. Thank you for allowing us some time to introduce the NRRC to you today. You'll hear much more from us in the coming weeks, but now I'd like to turn it over to the staff from the BJA Programs Office. And I believe our first speaker will be Tracy Willis.
Hello, everybody. This is Tracy Willis, and I am one of 5 grant managers here at BJA working with the Second Chance Act. I am tasked with the mentoring grants. This section of the presentation, we will go over the post-award grant management and federal compliance. I have with me my colleagues Anya, Michael, Jennifer, Lucia, and myself. Next slide. In this section, I'm going to give you an overview of what will be covered. We'll be covering award acceptance, special conditions, report submission, the Federal Funding Accountability and Transparency Act, the financial information, unallowable costs, grant payment, the grant adjustment notice, grant monitoring, grant closeout, and additional information. Next slide. In reference to the award acceptance, once you get your award acceptance, you need to assign a financial point of contact in GMS. After that is done, we need you to print, sign, and date the award letter and initial the special condition pages. That means each page of the special condition sheet needs to be initialed. After that's done, we need you to scan and email the documents to acceptance at usdoj.gov, or you can fax it to 1-866-388-3055. You will then, in the mail, receive a packet containing your grant ID, your PIN number, and information about accessing your funds through the grant payment request system. Next page. This is a sample of what the award document cover sheet looks like. We need you to make sure you review each square, each inch of this document, and sign and date it. Next. The special conditions are terms and conditions of the award. All awards will include standard special conditions, and then some special conditions are specific to specific programs like Second Chance. Certain special conditions may be added specifically to an individual award. So while you may have general special conditions and program specific, some of you all may get individualized special conditions. So we need you to definitely pay attention, close attention to all your special conditions and read each one specifically. And these are samples of what the special condition sheet looks like. Again, make sure you sign initial each page of the special condition sheet. And here are examples of special conditions. All awards will include standard special conditions concerning compliance with the LJP Financial Guide, the use of federal funds, the audit requirements, the Anti-Lobbying Act, the Civil Rights, EEOP, reporting of potential fraud, waste, and abuse. Then there are those withholding special conditions where there will be holds placed on your funds for overdue reports, be it financial or progress, and or budget pending approval. Next is Mr. Michael Wagner.
Good afternoon. I'm going to take a few minutes just to go over some of the reporting requirements associated with the Second Chance Act program. By accepting your award, you are agreeing to follow and comply with all the reporting requirements that are involved with the program. There are basically 4 different reports that you'll be required to complete. The first is a financial report, which you will be submitting in the Grants Management System, or also known as GMS. The PMT reports, which are the performance metrics that are associated with your award, and they will be submitted into the PMT system, or the performance management tool. The third is a semi-annual progress report, which you'll be submitting in the GMS system. And also the 4th report will be the FAFATA report, which you will be reporting in the FSRS.gov website. If you are not in compliance with any of these reports, if they're overdue or they're not filled out in a satisfactory manner, a hold will be placed on your funds and will not be released until the report is submitted. Next slide, please. The financial status reports are submitted on a quarterly basis in GMS, and they will be due 30 days after the end of the quarter. If they are not submitted within 30 days, automatic freeze will be placed on your funds. Next slide, please. The performance reports are submitted in the performance management tool, which you can access at www.bjaperformancetools.org. These are again submitted on a quarterly basis and are due 30 days after the end of the quarter. If you have any questions in regard to these reports, you can contact the PMC Help Desk at 1-888-252-6867, or you can email them at bjapmc@csrincorporated.com. Next slide. The GMS progress reports are submitted on a semi-annual basis, and they are once again due 30 days after the end of the 6-month period. So for the report that is coming up you'll be required to submit a report by the end of January for the period of October 1 to December 30th, 2013, and then you'll be required to submit a report by the end of July for the period of January 1 to June 30th, 2014. After that, the reporting cycle will be July to December, and then January to June again. You'll be submitting these reports in the GMS system, and these reports must have the completed PMC reports attached to them. If the PMC report is not attached to these reports, the report will not be approved and will be change requested back to you for you to upload those PMC reports. If you have any questions or you need assistance with the GMS system, you can contact the GMS Help Desk at 1-888-549-9901, or you can email them at gms.helpdesk@usdoj.gov. Next slide. FAFATA reporting, or the Federal Funding, Accountability, and Transparency Act, may apply to some of you all out there. These reports are to be submitted in the ssrs.gov system, and they are for the reports on subawards that exceed $25,000. You're required to submit a report on a sub-awardee no later than 1 month after the award was made. So, for example, if you entered into a contract on November 7th, you're required to have a report in the FSRS system no later than December 30th, by the end of December 2013. If you have questions in regards to FAFATA reporting, you can refer to the FSRS.gov website and also the www.ncja.org/issues and legislation/grant management accountability FAFATA webinar. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Lucia Turk.
Hi, good afternoon. We will be discussing accessing your federal funding as well as cost restrictions for the OJP financial guide. Funds are requested through the Grants Payment Request System, also known as GPRS or JEEPers, a web-based payment system that allows grant recipients to submit payment requests through the Internet. To access GPRS, go to the following link and complete your registration. Individuals within your organization that are designated in GMS as the award's financial point of contact may register in GPRS. The financial point of contact is the only user that may access this application. You can request payment for an individual award using the Create Payment Request form. Payment requests can be submitted at any time. However, if your award has a delinquent report, a hold will be placed on your account, and you will not be able to submit a payment request. Once the outstanding report has been submitted, the hold will be removed from your account. The average time frame for a payment request to be processed and deposited is 2 to 3 business days. Please note that OJP does not process payment requests during the last 4 business days of each month. For technical assistance, please see the GPRS user guide at the following link, or you may contact our Office of the Chief Financial Officer at 1-800-458-0786. You may access the OJP Financial Guide online and download it into PDF version. The links are here as shown. To be allowed under federal awards, costs must be reasonable, allocable, and necessary to the project. In addition, they must comply with funding statute requirements. For specific factors to determine whether costs are allowable, please reference the OJP Financial Guide, the program solicitation, and the applicable cost principles. Next slide, please. Please note that per the OJP Financial Guide, these costs are unallowable: land acquisition, lobbying, fundraising, compensation and travel for federal employees, consultant fees above $450 per day without prior approval, bonuses or commissions, military-type equipment, corporate formation, costs incurred outside the project period, all food and beverage, and then program-specific unallowable costs. In addition to unallowable costs identified in the OJP Financial Guide, award funds may not be used for prizes, rewards, entertainment, trinkets, or any type of monetary incentive, client stipends, gift cards, or vehicles. For additional questions regarding unallowable costs, please contact your program manager directly. I'm going to turn this section over to Anya.
Throughout the life of the grant, changes may occur. A grant adjustment notice, also known as a GAN, is a request to make a programmatic, administrative, or financial change to a grant. Before you submit a GAN, please review the OJP Financial Guide to determine if the changes are allowable and if a GAN is required. The Financial Guide should be your #1 resource. If you still have questions, you may contact OCFO, and you will find the link to OCFO customer service towards the end of this presentation, or you may contact one of us, your state policy advisor. If a GAN is required, please make sure you submit all the necessary information as indicated in the guide. If instructions are not followed, the GAN will be returned for corrections. Requests for changes are carefully reviewed for consistency with the OJP Financial Guide to make certain that the goals and objectives of the grant program are addressed. Please make sure to allow up to 15 working days for a response from us. And once a GAN is submitted, please do not assume that it was approved because it may have been sent back to you for changes or is still being under review. Here I'd like to emphasize the importance of being proactive and always taking advantage of the OJP Financial Guide. Please keep in mind that each one of us has several hundred grants that we need to manage, and sometimes we are unable to respond quickly, and therefore we ask you to be proactive, at the same time to be detailed with all your requests and communication. Lastly, please make sure that you are always current with all your reports in GMS, otherwise a GAN will not be reviewed. And make sure that all your contact information in GMS is current at all times, because if a decision is made on a grant adjustment notice, GMS will send an automatic email to the point of contact. If your information is not correct, you will not receive a notice. Also, please make sure to always check your junk or spam folder, because sometimes a notification from GMS will end up there. The next slide will cover a no-cost extension request. Requests for a no-cost extension are reviewed on case-by-case basis and should be submitted in GMS at least 45 days prior to the project's end date. Please do not wait to the very last minute to submit a request for a no-cost extension. As soon as you realize that you may need additional time for completion of your grant, you should submit a grant adjustment notice in GMS. Make sure you attach all the documentation that is outlined in this slide and in the OJP Financial Guide, and do not assume that once a GAN is submitted, it is approved. When a decision is reached, you will be notified through an email in GMS. The contact information should be kept current, as mentioned prior, and if you have additional questions in terms of what needs to be attached in the grant adjustment notice, please email your state policy advisor or again, use the OJP Financial Guide. The next slide will cover scope. If you would like to make a modification to your project and a programmatic changes will impact the approved scope of the project, you will need to submit again in GMS for change of scope. Please make sure to keep the National Reentry Resource Center aware of all the modifications, especially when it comes to any changes that you wish to make to the target population. Please make sure to be detailed in the request for modification, explain the reasons for the change and how it will impact the scope of the project. The next slide, we're going to move on to the budget modification. When you accept the award, you become responsible for following financial standards as set forth in the OJP Financial Guide. The guide should be your first destination for questions regarding financial matters. Again, your backups may be always contacting OCSO customer service, and again, the contact information will be towards the end of this presentation. I strongly suggest that you keep OJP Financial Guide on file at all times, and I also recommend that you would check the website periodically for any updates that may take place and any changes that may occur to the OJP Financial Guide and policy. Also, if your budget was approved, that doesn't mean that throughout the life of the grant, you are not responsible for checking OJP Financial Guide to make sure that for the remainder of your grant, all the expenses are allowable. Please make sure, again, to make sure that all the costs that you're proposing and you are working with are allowable as set forth in the OJP Financial Guide. If you need to modify the budget, please review the guide to make sure that again is necessary. If the submitted again is not required, it will be denied. A formal request for a budget modification is required when proposed change exceeds 10% of the total award amount, and this is a cumulative amount that you need to track through the start of the award. Also, if the modification changes the scope of the project, or if it creates a new budget category. You must show all the federal approved budget categories when making a request for budget modification and clearly indicate the changes. The budget narrative attached in the grant adjustment notice must mirror the budget categories in a budget detail worksheet and the chart in the GAN module in GMS. The budget worksheet must show all the computation and calculations must be correct. The number one reason why GANs for budget modification are sent back to the grantee is they either miss the mandatory attachment of a budget detail worksheet or a budget narrative, or the computations are not correct. Please make sure to review all the computations twice to make sure they are correct. Otherwise, again, will be sent back for corrections. The next slide will cover sole source justification. All grant recipients are required to stay current with all federal regulations and administration of grant funds. Sole source procurement in excess of $100,000 requires written justification and a prior approval of OJP. Please refer to the OJP Financial Guide to make sure that you are in compliance with the procurement standards and to see what is required on submission of sole source justification again. The OJP Financial Guide has an outline of what is required of you to submit with the sole source justification again. Please make sure that you address every single point clearly, are detailed, and of course, please make sure that all your reports are current, otherwise, again, will not be reviewed. At this point, I turn this over to a presentation on BJA compliance monitoring.
Thank you, Anna. This is Jennifer speaking. Hello, everyone. This is BJA compliance monitoring. BJA in-depth compliance monitoring activities include site visits and enhanced programmatic desk reviews. Through these activities, BJA will monitor grant recipients to ensure that they are doing what is proposed and approved, meeting programmatic, administrative, and fiscal requirements, identifying and resolving problems and or issues, and receiving needed training and guidance. The next slide will talk about grant closeouts. Once your project is complete and all funds have been expended, you need to submit your closeout. There are two types of closeout. First is the standard closeout, which is submitted within 90 calendar days after the grant end date. All administrative, programmatic, and financial requirements have been met, and all expenses must be obligated by the last day of the project period. This includes if you have match and or program income. The next closeout is an administrative closeout, and that is on the 91st day after the grant end date. GMS will automatically initiate an administrative closeout and notify the grantee. This closeout is usually when grantees are unwilling, non-compliant, or unable to complete the closeout requirements. Once the administrative closeout begins, you will be unable to draw down any additional funds on the award. We usually recommend starting the closeout process as soon as the program is completed and all monies have been spent. So you can submit your final SF-425 and final progress report well in advance of the 90-day closeout period. The next slide is closeout notification. GMS will automatically notify the grantee 60 days prior to the grant end date, on the grant end date, and 30 days after the grant end date. Notifications will be sent to the point of contact, financial point of contact, and the authorizing official as listed in GMS. So if you need to make changes to the contact information, please be sure to submit a grant adjustment notice to update the information. The next slide is closeout components. There are 5 closeout components. The first one is the final progress report. If you're required to submit a PMT report, then your final report in GMS should include the final PMT report. The second is the final financial status report, or SF-425. You need to make sure you have obligated all funds prior to the award end date. And if you have a match requirements must be met by the end of the award period and included in the report. Number 3 is special condition compliance. You should email your state policy advisor with a notification that you reviewed all your special conditions and are in compliance. Number 4 is financial reconciliation. Our financial office, or OCFO, will conduct a financial reconciliation and will contact you with any financial outstanding issues. And the last is programmatic requirement certification. Once you provide a response, you'll be able to click the submit button in the closeout module and submit the closeout package for a review. And the next slide provides additional information, such as our BJ main phone, our website, a list of our state policy advisors, and additional FAQs about BJA funding. And the next slide also includes our OCFO Customer Service Center, a website for PMT, and the help desk information line. The next slide also includes other important links like the BJA Writing and Management Academy, the GPRS User Guide, the grants.gov website, the tools for the grants management system, including the website and the help desk hotline, an OJT Financial Guide website, and information on Grants 101. The next slide includes just standard forms that you may need, which is the indirect cost rate agreement, the disclosure of lobbying activities, accounting system and financial capability questionnaire, and standard assurances. For the contact information for the BJA policy advisors that presented today, here's our contact information on this slide. And this pretty much concludes the BJA portion of the webinar. I'll hand it off to Rachel from CSR, who will talk about the data collection and performance measures.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Brushett, and I'm the lead analyst for the Second Chance Act program. I work on the Second Chance Act data that's collected through BJA's performance measurement tool, also known as the PMT. For those of you who aren't familiar with the PMT, it's a web-based data collection tool into which you're required to submit both participant and program level data on a quarterly basis. The questions in the PMT are designed to help us capture and track program activities throughout the life of your grant award. We also use PMT data to speak more broadly about the success and accomplishments of SCA programs as a whole. It's need to note as well that your requirement to report into the PMT system quarterly is separate from your other BJA-related reporting activities. While you will use some portions of the PMT to attach to GMS forms, those are not the same. They're two separate systems, and you need to comply with both. By now, you should have received an email instructing you on how to log into and use the PMT system from the folks at the PMT Help Desk. If you have not received that information or have any problems logging in, please contact the PMT Help Desk either by phone or email. Both of those pieces of information are included in the PowerPoint slide. Once in the PMT system, you can access a range of information and resources. In addition to being the location into which you'll enter your data, there are several pre-recorded webinars detailing each SCA grant program, as well as hard copy versions of the PMT system questions. I strongly encourage you all to take some time to explore the program-specific resources on the website, especially the PMT questionnaires, in advance of reporting. The questions in each PMT section are unique, so be sure to look at the resources and information that pertains specifically to the SCA grant that you have received. I'm not going to walk through any of the specific PMT questions since they are available online, but there are a couple of issues that we've been having that we wanted to bring to your attention in advance. The first is in the PMT system, you're going to be asked to provide information about the baseline recidivism rate. This is also information that was asked in the solicitation that you submitted. We want to basically know about the recidivism rate in your area prior to program implementation. There are multiple ways to go about calculating a baseline recidivism rate, but I wanted to make you aware of the resources available with CSG and the National Reentry Resource Center to help you figure out how to calculate that rate, as well as to help you identify and develop partnerships with agencies if you need some help in accessing additional information. The second point I wanted to make is at the end of your grant, in addition to doing all of the closeout process on the BJA administrative side, you will be asked to complete a PMT section on the court and criminal involvement of your program participants. Questions in this section include, but are not limited to, how many participants successfully completed the program, how many successful completers were arrested, convicted, revoked, reincarcerated, as well as how this information was obtained. A full list of the court and criminal involvement questions can be found in the hard copy version of your SCA questionnaires on the PMT website. While you're only going to be asked these questions one time at the end of your grant, I strongly encourage you to collect this court and criminal involvement information throughout the life of your award. We've had several instances where it's a mad scramble at the end to capture all of that court and criminal involvement for participants over the life of the award. And I should reinforce that submitting court and criminal involvement data is a requirement of closing out your grant. Third, and relatedly, when you're tracking your data, especially those court and criminal involvement measures, it's recommended that you create and use unique user IDs for all of your program participants. This is currently not a requirement in the PMT, but BJA is hoping to expand and enhance its collection of recidivism data. That would help us to make some more concrete statements about participant recidivism rates. The specific mechanism by which that will happen is still to be determined, but it will require unique user IDs. You can track those IDs however you want. It can be through an existing system that you might have or something as simple as an Excel spreadsheet. Like other BJA reports, I wanted to reiterate that after each reporting quarter, you have 30 days to submit your PMT data. You should have received a reminder email this past Monday, the 16th, notifying you about the upcoming end of the quarter. The current quarter ends on December 31st, so you'll have until January 30th, 2014 to submit your PMT data. Each quarter, you'll receive reminders from the PMT Help Desk about your due dates and requirements in order to help you stay on track. Again, if at any time you have any problems related to the PMT, any issues ranging from not being able to log on to not understanding a question, please don't hesitate to contact the PMT Help Desk. They're there to provide you with as much support as possible during the data entry process. And thank you all for your participation in the SCA grants. We really appreciate your data. And I'm going to turn it back over to Leah and CSG for some question and answer, I believe.
Great. Thanks, Rachel. The only questions that we've received so far are pertaining to grant management. So first I want to let people know I put up back up on the screen a slide from a few pages ago. This has the link to both the PMT website as well as the contact information for the PMT help desk. If you have any questions about what Rachel was just speaking about, these are the two places to go for information about that. Can I ask I'm going to move to the slide that has the contact information for the state policy advisors. BJ, folks, can you explain how you'd like folks to reach out to you with questions about the grant management requirements?
Sure, yes. Again, please make sure that you take advantage of the OJP financial guide and the resources that were provided to you today and prior to this webinar through an email from the National Reentry Resource Center. And if you still have questions beyond all those resources, please email one of us. Please make sure that you email your specific state policy advisor and include your award number and the questions that you have.
Anya, where's the best place for folks to go to find out who their state policy advisor is? Is that information in GMS?
It's actually available on the presentation in the slides, and also if they go into their award package, the award letter should include the state policy advisor.
Also, if they're unable to locate it on the award documents because I know things have changed, you can go onto the BJA website and there is a current list of who your state policy advisor is per program.
Since the only questions that we've received are about grant management requirements, we're going to ask the folks who submitted those questions to reach out to their state policy advisor. If there are any other questions about technical assistance or anything else that we've discussed during today's webinar, please feel free to reach out to me. My email address is lkane@csg.org. My contact information is also in the chat screen if you weren't able to take that down. Before we close out, I want to thank all of our speakers today. From BJA, we were joined by Dr. Gary Dennis, Anya Dobrozanska, Michael Boatner, Jennifer Liu, Lucia Turk, and Tracy Willis. And from CSR Incorporated, we were joined by Rachel Brushett. Thanks also to all of you grantees for participating in today's webinar. We know that it's a lot of information to take down and digest, but we hope that today's webinar was helpful. You should have also received information via email yesterday, including a frequently asked questions document relating to grant management requirements. If you haven't received that document or you have questions about anything that's in it, you can also reach out to me as well. Finally, you will receive an email when the recording of today's webinar is available online. A survey about today's webinar will pop up on your screen after we end, and we hope that you'll share any feedback that you have about the webinar. Our homepage will also pop up on your screen after we end. So if you haven't yet, we ask that you please take the opportunity to sign up for our newsletter. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great afternoon.